Yo, what is good, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. It is your boy Key, back again with ShootingStar Sheriff for episode 9 of the podcast. It's funny because this is our 9th episode of the podcast, and we're talking about episode 9 of Star Wars. And we have a very, very special guest, the boy Scott over here. Would you like to introduce yourself, Scott? And I know you stream. Could you shout out your stream and everything, too?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Most people know me as Bear over at Roman Bear Streams on Twitch, and man, I'm excited to be here because I need more reasons to talk about Star Wars, and Aaron won't debate Star Wars with me anymore. He's the other half of our channel. He's given up on me.
Well, it's good to have you here.
All right, awesome. So me and the boy Sheriff over here, we are casual fans, but Scott, well, should I call you what is it again? Bear? All right, I'm gonna call you Bear. All right, me and the boy Sheriff over here, we're casual fans, but Bear is, from my understanding, a really, really big Star Wars fans.
Yeah, so I grew up watching Star Wars with my dad as a kid. Like, I had VHS rips of it from Fox. I've been reading like comic books and the like back catalog on things. Like, they have tons of stuff. I literally just played KOTOR, which is the Knights of the Old Republic game, on stream, leading into the movie and stuff. So yeah, I'm a little bit of a fan.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, me personally, I've always been interested in the Star Wars lore. I have watched all of the movies and everything like that, but I've always been a casual fan. I've never been like too in depth in it, so a lot of things that happen within the movies kind of go over my head. But I'm glad we have you here so you can kind of like explain those things to us and let us know what actually was going on. You have anything you want to say, Sheriff?
I guess as far as like my Star Wars experience too, kind of the same as Keon. I am very casual with it. I have seen all the movies, including the redheaded stepchild that is the Solo movie, but that's besides the point. I have played Knights of the Old Republic. I'm currently playing Jedi Fallen Order. Battlefront. So I do play the games, but I pretty much play the games and the movies. Haven't really delved too hard into the books. I've watched like the Clone Wars and Rebels. So that's pretty much as far as I go as far as lore and like extra stuff goes, but pretty casual. I like watching me some Star Wars.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was at one point where I was just like reading up on like a bunch of Star Wars lore online, like learning about all of the different races and stuff like that, and trying to figure out Yoda's Yoda, like what his race is and shit like that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's like ever actually been named. But there's been like there was like 3 of them in the now non-canon universe, and now there's 2 in the canon one.
Yeah. Apparently, like not JJ Abrams. I'm tripping. Man, who's the guy who created Star Wars? People gonna kill me for this. Lucas, he said he didn't like have a name for it or something like that, and he only wanted there to be one of Yoda's race within the entire universe, and then somebody else changed it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anyway, somebody added one in like one of the comic books, and then in Knights of the Old Republic, they put one in that, and you just let it slide because that was like 3,000 years ago. So I was like, I guess that's okay.
Yeah. So let's.
All right, cool. So I was just telling these guys before we got on this call, I was actually like watching another video that had like 40 plot holes within a movie, and I guess we can get into that in a bit. But just for me personally, going into the movie, I really wasn't expecting a lot because, like I said, I'm a casual fan, so I just went into the movie trying to enjoy it as the movie itself. And overall, I think it was pretty okay. Palpatine. Okay, so we should probably preface, this is going to be a spoiler-filled review or discussion. But anyway, like, Palpatine coming back was kind of weird for me, too, because I'm just trying to figure out how did he survive, all of that stuff like that, and then, like, why was he on this planet building this fleet of loyal followers and nobody knew about it? Where did they get the resources to create these massive ships? Also, another thing, they mentioned in the video that I watched, the kyber crystals. How do they miniaturize those kyber crystals? And all of those, like, there were no more kyber crystals to, like, make those ships. So where did they get them from, you know?
Okay. That one isn't really a plot hole, I would say. I would say that one's nothing. Because like, that kyber crystals grow on, like, planets Like, there's one planet they like the Jedi's get theirs from, but like that's a mineral that forms, so they could have found it elsewhere. Like,
Okay.
plus, like the one that was for the regular Death Star laser is like a room size one. That one I think is a non sequitur. But the other one, it's just the Emperor only fell down into the center of a planet size like death machine that exploded. He could survive that. You could walk that off, right?
Right.
I know that's you being sarcastic too. So I mean, I guess you know what? And it's funny because Keon brings up a really good topic that I kind of wanted to overview with kind of my thoughts on how I felt about the movie.
Yeah.
I went into this movie knowing that this was going to be the end of a 42-year-long story arc that a lot of people care deeply about, including me, because I think everyone here in this call grew up on the prequel trilogy. So
Sad to admit I did.
I mean, we can't help when we were born, but like even
right, yeah.
But even I've learned to even appreciate the prequel trilogy for what it is. It's not perfect, yes, I know, but I think what my biggest issue with the movie was definitely the pacing. One, I feel like the questions that a lot of people had would have been fine if it had more time to play it out. Like I mean, me personally, the movie is fast. I wasn't bored the entire time, no, but so many things were just happening, and I felt like, bro, they should have Harry Potter Part 1 and Part 2. I feel like if everything had a little bit more room to breathe, and they had more time to expand on those things, like, okay, Palpy's back. How did that happen? And then, a lot of things that was and I really don't want to say it's any director. I don't want to say it's, I mean,
I'll say it. It's Rian Johnson's fault.
I was gonna say between Johnson and Abrams, because it really felt like Abrams was really trying to make a good film. Because there are parts of it that I love, but then there are parts of it that I'm like, I just felt like it needed more breathing room. So I kind of wanted to talk more about for me it was more so pacing. And it was definitely I felt like it needed a part one. I think it needed to be separated into two whole parts.
Yeah,
I'm definitely with you on that one.
Mm-hmm. So my thing, for one, I don't actually blame Rian Johnson for Last Jedi. I dislike that film. I blame Kathleen Kennedy, who's the head of Star Wars. She should have picked one team and stuck with it instead of changing things around. But
yeah,
I agree with what you're saying, Sharif. Is that the problem with this movie? This is my movie film background talking, and not my personal opinion, because I actually really like the movie, but I understand that if you go into the movie and you're like, this, you take it at face value. As soon as that crawl starts, you're like, okay, this is gonna be fun. Don't pay attention. Just go with it.
Yeah.
But as a filmmaker, the problem is ultimately that this movie was supposed to be part of a trilogy, and the middle part of this trilogy doesn't set up anything. Because every message and every thing that The Last Jedi has is immediately thrown away by the time you get to the last act, because either something Rian Johnson executed poorly or something Disney pulled in the edits. And so this movie started and had to conclude what should have been 6 hours of plot development and character building in 2.5.
Yeah.
And I think it's really fun. If you just go in, you're like, this is a silly, fun space adventure movie. It's super enjoyable. It's one of the most just unabashedly fun Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't look at anything too closely. The moment you pull out the microscope, everything falls apart.
Yeah.
Literally, the last time we saw the Emperor was Vader shoulder tackling him into oblivion in the middle of the Death Star as it explodes. But he's back. It's fine. He walked it off, guys. It was just the coldness of space.
It's that Sith magic.
Yeah, but I think overall they did the best they could to end the trilogy out on a good note. Not necessarily a high one, but just something fun and enjoyable, and that you didn't go in and walk out being like, I hate everything, they've ruined childhood. So that was me. on the film.
Yeah. No. You're definitely right about the film being a pretty fun and a pretty fun movie. There was like what was it, the hyperspace jumps or something like that?
Yeah, like right off the gate, man.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty cool. And then you find out like that's not supposed to be possible. And then what is it like? They're not. Are they TIE fighters? Man, god damn it. I wrote my notes down and everything like that, but I'm getting names wrong. But anyway, the ships that were chasing them weren't supposed to be able to do that.
Yeah, which is cool, because for me, as somebody who's like a big Star Wars nerd, the moment I saw the TIEs, like, jump with them, I was like, oh shit, they put hyperdrives inside the TIE fighter. What?
Yeah.
Because that's what, like, that was the one thing that made X-Wings always superior, and it's from, like, Episode 4, where they're like, a TIE fighter can't be this far out from the base, because it's just out there by the Death Star, and they're like, there's nothing around here, and that's what gives it up. So, it was a cool callback, and, like, showing that the First Order has become a huge threat, because they keep advancing their tech and their game, and then we get a fleet of, laser beam death gods.
Yeah. So
I want to ask you all a question. How do you all feel about how OP Rey was?
Well,
Like,
it's fun because Kylo was more OP in this one, and I love him.
yeah, Kylo's my. I mean, it's
You
cool.
guys can't see it, but this is just one of my Kylo Ren mugs that I have.
Oh
in
no,
my hands.
I'm looking right now. I can see.
I see. I do see it. I think, you know what? It's funny because I like Kylo. It's funny. I don't really like Kylo is like I don't really see Kylo as a Sith character like how I saw like Anakin and Darth Maul and stuff like that. To me, he just seems more like a tragic character. So when I look at him more like that, he's definitely a great character he's definitely a great character to have for like for the sequel trilogy. I think he was fine as like a secondary. He wasn't even more like a protagonist. He wasn't like an antagonist. He was more like a what's that term? Derudotagonist or something. More like a secondary.
There are multiple. I think this is the first.
Yeah, we're gonna Google it.
I would say this is the first one where he is completely like the primary threat until like the end, because the Emperor is always looming. But as far as Rey goes, I didn't have a. I've always liked Rey because I think for one, Daisy Ridley is super pretty, but for two, her character is fun.
For real.
You're not the only one.
You, man, but like, look, I watched one video of her on YouTube, and then YouTube just like recommended me like 50 videos of her, making me think that I was obsessed with her, and I low-key started to become. I was like, whoa, let me watch this video. Oh shit, Daisy Ridley again. She's so fucking cute. Hold up, wait. She's building like Legos. What the hell?
I can't blame you for that one.
No.
But, like, the whole thing is that, like, in the past couple films, we haven't really seen Rey fail, and in this one, we do. And I like that. We see her lose her temper and lose her control. We see her, like, not doing, like, just failing that obstacle course right at the end just because she gets distracted and can't, like, contain herself. It's stuff that we've seen with other Jedi going through, and I think that was cool. The other thing is, we've seen her awkwardly beat Kylo Ren in 2 other films, which is weird. And in the first one, he's got like debilitations. He's down on the back foot. But this time, every time they met, they were on equal, like, both in peak condition, and he wins because he's been trained longer. He's been doing this since he was a kid, and they're equal in strength, but not in experience. And I was like, I liked that.
Yeah, I did like that too.
Yeah,
because. The only really thing that made them equal, even in the first film, which the first film I had the most issues with Kylo actually, but it's funny because I was like, I get that she's strong in the Force, but that doesn't mean her lightsaber game is on par. And like in this movie, it really did feel like when it came to actual lightsaber combat, Kylo was definitely the superior. I mean, they can have equal force because the whole dyad thing that they brought back.
Which is cool.
Which is cool. Yeah. I like that there was lots of Easter eggs to people who had experienced other content of Star Wars in like the video games and stuff. I thought that was a really cool fan servicey thing. Even going to the Sith homeworld, I thought that was dope. Like I thought that whole part was cool.
That was a new Sith homeworld because I don't think I've ever heard of like that specific one. I'm always used to the Sith Academy on Korriban from the Old Republic.
Yeah.
So I was like, ooh, this is cool, new Sith planet.
Yeah, no, I thought
it was
that
really
good.
fun. Because there's actually, this is just me being a giant Star Wars nerd, there's an episode of Rebels where they go to Dathomir, and there's a cave that looks exactly like the weird lightning pyramid that they go to in this movie. And I was like, that's awesome. I was like, I wonder if this is just a thing that, like, Darkseid tends to manifest this style of architecture and design and habitat. I was like, that's really cool.
No, yeah, I
Motifs, man.
No, I thought it was. I thought that part was really dope, and I guess we need to address the elephant in the room, and I think we all know what we're talking about when I say this.
How everybody wants to bang Poe Dameron.
I love Poe. You know what? Honestly, though, my favorite character in the sequel trilogy is Finn. I really like Finn. I think Finn's best movie is Last Jedi because he gets to stand up to his boss and everything. And I don't know. I really like Finn in the sequel trilogy. I wish they had more time because he's force sensitive in the movie, but it's never it's like an Easter egg that they just don't drop at all. So it's just like, okay, but you like by the time you get to the end of the movie, you're like, oh. You're like, oh. So, and it's funny too because like now that I think about it, it makes perfect sense because in the first movie he like doesn't believe in the Force or anything like that at all. Mm-hmm. But like he has like that lightsaber battle with Kylo at the end, and I'm like, and he
keeps up, and like we haven't seen anybody that had no Force sensitivity ever wield a lightsaber successfully. In the films.
Yeah. And I guess and it's funny because I rewatched The Last Jedi. Well, I rewatched all the movies because, Disney Plus, but I couldn't really find any signs of him being force sensitive in Last Jedi. And, most of them are dropped here. But it's funny, though, because Rey only trusts Finn to hold the lightsaber. And it's really funny how he can always tell when something's going on with her. And I think the biggest one, the first time I watched it, when Finn was like, you don't understand what she's going through, me and Leia did, I was like, wait. I was like, hold on.
I think that's just because he wanted to get into her pants, you know what I'm saying? Like he had to pay that much attention to her to like kind of try to get to know her so she can be like, all right, cool, you pretty cool.
Wow. See, that's the funny thing. That's one thing that like made me super sad with like Ben, Loren, and Rey at the end. I was like, no! You don't do that to Finn.
Right. We were talking about this on the phone. I was like, yo, them two kissing? Why?
Yeah, I get it because it's always been kind of a weird love triangle, but it's funny because I was listening to another podcast that I really love, and I really thought back through the film, and throughout the whole, like, all of Episode 9, you think Finn's trying to get to the point where he can tell her, I love you. Because he does. Like, we all know that. They both feel that way about each other. Like, we've seen it in all three films to some extent. Like, from the moment they met, after that, like, initial escape, they just trusted each other inherently, which is cool. But if you pay attention, what he's waiting and trying to say is that he's force sensitive. Because if it was just I love you, he would have said it in front of Poe, because Poe would get that. Poe's a very human person, but he doesn't believe in all the Force mumbo-jumbo.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And like that's that moment where you're with your best friend and he makes fun of your thing that you're like really believe in, so you don't talk about it in front of him because he's gonna bust your balls about it.
Exactly. So
and I thought that was really cool.
No, I thought that was really, and it's saddening. Well, and I guess to me it's a little saddening because I really want to see more character development for Finn. Like because it would have been really cool if his arc would have been Stormtrooper to Rebel and then to Jedi. It would have been crazy to see that transformation. Well, maybe not even Jedi, but like him being force sensitive is such a big reveal for his character. I was like, that would have been a crazy arc for him. So
this is completely my headcanon. But I like to imagine that a large chunk of the initial Stormtroopers that like rebelled, because they kind of like insinuate this, that they are the ones who are all force sensitive. That's why they were like that's why it was the Force Awakens, because suddenly like a bunch of them were like, oh no, this is bad, why would we do this thing? I like to imagine Finn gathers them and then with Rey, they become like new tiny Jedi Order.
Oh,
That's my headcanon. I'm sticking to it.
No, I
Yeah.
I would like to believe that as well. I guess.
Yeah, we were talking.
Mhm.
No, I said we were talking about this on the phone. Where like to me it felt like, um, the movie's ending was insinuating that there were more journeys that Ray had to go on or something like that, and like they can continue after this fact. So like it didn't really feel like an ending to me. Like it felt like they can still like come back and like do more with it. Did you all feel that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, they left it with her with the yellow sentinel looking saber. Like that was 100% them being like, all right, the original Skywalker saga is over, and if we do anything, it'll be like cool new stuff in the future with a more like semi clean slate, and they can build off of like Rey and Finn, or they can jump 100 years or 30 years or do whatever they want. But I think it is them leaving the door open to make more stuff. But I wholeheartedly believe they're going to give it a wide berth. I think at most. It'll be probably like 3 to 4 years before we see another Star Wars film.
Yeah.
And we're gonna see some more TV shows.
Like The Mandalorian. Because The Mandalorian is great.
Yo, I gotta finish that, man. I'm on like episode 6.
Would you finish that? I've been telling you for to catch up.
Look, I'm gonna finish it. I have so many other shows that I'm watching at the same time. It's crazy. I got like 6 shows I'm watching right now, and they're all really good. Which is the problem with TV nowadays. Like there are like 20 shows out that are really, really good, and you can't watch them all, or at least not all in time.
Yeah, I hear you on that. But okay, so so one thing I gotta say this. The one thing that did bother me, even the first time I watched the movie, because I think even if you didn't enjoy the movie like the first time, I feel like it. I wanted to see it twice to see if I did like it, and I was like, I like it. It's not my favorite movie, but I don't think it's worth the constant bashing that it's getting online, and it's
No, Last Jedi is worse.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. No, you're right. But I was the whole okay, so the scene where Rey is obviously she's looking up into the sky and she's like, "Be with me," and you start hearing all the Jedi, and Anakin,
when she uses the Avatar state.
yeah, basically when she uses the Avatar.
I was just gonna talk about that.
And Anakin has a line. We all know what it is. He says, "Bring balance to the Force, like I have," and I was like, "What the?" I was like, "Wait, no, you didn't." And even in a way, in a way.
And I was gonna say my issue with that was how did all of the Jedi learn to like manifest themselves within the Force without training? Because like wasn't like a big deal with like Qui-Gon Jinn teaching Obi-Wan, and then Yoda had to like go to like a different planet or something like that to like teach himself to manifest himself within the Force.
So I think this is one of those like you have to just kind of be like, it's a movie, have fun, ignore it. But
yeah,
if I'm gonna be a nerd and like jump in and try and make sense of it. And do all the legwork for them, I would say that it's what Qui-Gon learned how to do, and then taught like Obi-Wan, and then or Qui-Gon was learning and Obi-Wan learned and then taught Yoda and all that stuff, is how to physically like project yourself after death in the Force, because they all show up as like full people. This is, I think, more like echoes, just like the living memory of the Force, and she's just like hearing the encouragement of them. It's like they're all in Force heaven, but like Obi-Wan and Yoda can just come hang out like Goku does, and just be like, "Oh man, guys, I'm on vacation today, so I'm visiting Earth again." They can do that because of their Force powers. That was my rationale for it, and it's one of those things where you have to make a lot of decisions for yourself on how Force powers work, and it's not the best implemented thing. But again, the whole movie very much is telling you not to pay attention and ignore it. Literally, there's a line where somebody's like, "We sounds like a lot of hold-on maneuvers." And it's like, "Nah, that's 1 in a million. Never work again. Never work again." And just ignore that. Just put it under the bed, pretend it was never here, and then move along.
Gotcha.
Which is not the best thing for filmmaking, but it is, I think, the best they could do to salvage this project.
Yeah. No, and honestly, it's so disheartening. I mean, I guess it's so disheartening to hear because a lot of critics liked it. It's I feel like it's a lot of the fans, because we all know that Disney kind of threw out a lot of the books and stuff and said those are not canon, and like
the most like legendary quote. I actually have a regular in my Discord that makes tons of memes about it, where Kathleen Kennedy literally said that there was the problem with Star Wars as opposed to Marvel is that they don't have any source material to pull from, and then it's just like images of like the hundreds of books and lore and things from the like all the non-canon stuff. I think they call it Legacy now. And on top of that, they have in fact borrowed things from that. Like in Rebels, they made the main villain Admiral Thrawn, who is from the most popular novel series in the Legacy collection. So it like there's so much stuff they could pull from, and they choose to pretend they don't. It just makes me nuts.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm about to say, are you about to say something?
I guess the only other thing I would really want, well, I guess this could be a topic in itself, but how does everybody feel? I mean, I think it was fine. I thought it was a great like symbolism thing for the movie, but how does everyone feel about the whole Rey taking the Skywalker name? Because I know that's another thing a lot of people had issues with. I thought it was fine because I get what it meant. But a lot of people have issues with it because they're like, well, the Skywalkers are dead. You can't just take the name like that. And I was like, it was like,
Yeah.
to me, it was more of like, in that scene, to me, it was more of like, I don't want to, rite of passage wasn't the term. It was more of like a blessing that that Luke and Leia in their Force ghostiness was kind of bequeathing to her.
Yeah.
Because another big thing with the sequel trilogy was her identity. So, and who she identifies as, which is funny because we're like in 2020 now. We're like still talking about who we identify as. But I thought, but it was like Luke said, like some things are stronger than blood. So I really liked that quote from Luke, and I really liked that scene. But I know everyone's got a different vibe on it. So how do you guys feel?
I thought like she just kind of said it because she didn't want to be known as a Palpatine, and like she did it kind of out of respect because Luke and Leia like trained her and stuff like that, and like she saw them as like maybe her parents or something like that, you know.
Yeah,
but I mean, I didn't really see too much wrong with it.
Yeah, like I've got two things on this. Like one, like for one, I liked it. It made sense to me. For like two reasons. One is one of the like themes they did in this film. It's a little rushed, but I do like it. Is the whole choosing your own family thing? That's something I personally like always prescribe to, and like that's what Lando says. Like he's like, we had each other, we just figured it out. Like we had to, and like you see like Finn and Poe and Rey, and there is a lot of love between all three of them, and like you can feel that, and like Han and Leia, and to like some extent Luke, became her adopted family, so that like all of that makes sense. And I'm gonna cite one of my favorite animes. If you ever watch Rurouni Kenshin, the character Sanosuke Sagara, he grew up without a family except for his commander, and when his commander dies, that's the last name he takes because that's the person who meant the most to him in the world and influenced his life. And like I can get that. Like that's an established trope, is when you don't have a name of your own, you take the name of somebody who has become like a family figure to you. That just makes sense.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I really, I don't know. I think it was really overlooked. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people bash that like really too hard because I'm like, wait, if you watch the movie and you paid at least 10% of attention, you understand why she said what she said. So I'm like, I don't know. To me, it was really, I don't know. A lot of it's funny because a lot of the critiques that I hear from not the critics but the fans, I'm just like, huh?
Yeah, they're just angry neckbeards.
No, I think I said in our last video, like this movie has to be like a 20 out of 10 to appease all of the fans. It can't be like a 10 out of 10. It can't be a 9. It can't be like average or good. It has to be 10 times better than that. But
yeah. And
how do you all feel about and this was like in a video that I watched before we got on this call, but like how do you all feel about Leia and Luke deciding to train Rey, although they knew she was a Palpatine, and like they knew she had, I guess, like dark side ties, and that was like I think Luke's whole thing about not wanting to train Ben because he was like he had like ties to the dark side or something like that.
So, for me, I think it makes sense because with Luke specifically here, that was a big turning point for him. Was that moment where he thought about he was going to strike down Ben and he didn't. He was about to retreat. Ben happened to wake up, see what his uncle was about to do, and because he had that little inkling of anger, flipped out and defended himself. So Luke had already made the decision that like you aren't evil until you choose it. And that, like, I like that. And he also did that with Vader. That was his whole thing. Like, to the end, he believed that he could bring his father back.
Yeah.
And he did. And he knew that, like, his last test of the Jedi wasn't that I can outbox Darth Vader or the Emperor. It's that I choose to not do that. And so for him, it makes sense. With Leia, I also think she's always been the, like, leader. The see the good in people. Mm-hmm. Like, she had Han, who is this, like, scummy smuggler from the beginning, who was completely self-centered, and eventually he, like, turned the leaf for her and fought with him. Same with, like, Lando, like, it brought him in, like, all this stuff. Like, she's been around the galaxy long enough and been in charge of enough people. Like, she's a general now, not even a princess. So she's seen that people can make their own choices and change. So I thought it made sense that they would still choose to, like, train her, because also, like, Rey clearly knows nothing about her family. What would it matter that she's a Palpatine?
Exactly. Like,
it just means you naturally are born with that Force lightning power up. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely, like I said, the themes are good. It's fun. It's funny because the only thing I wish was that it was longer. I think that's really the only thing I really would want. So it'll be funny when it comes out if there will be a director's cut, if there will be additional scenes. I don't know if there's going to be like an extended version with like extra. Like, I'm really curious to see if there was more that was supposed to be in it in the theatrical version.
No, there's definitely more that was supposed to be in it.
So, I mean, but Abrams did his best. He definitely did his best. I think they have learned their lesson that next Star Wars, we're keeping the same team all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, you got to.
They've learned their lesson. They've learned their lesson from that.
Yeah. Was it like...
No, I was going to say, like, it's crazy to me that they didn't, because they basically invented doing movie sagas like this nowadays with Marvel. And, like, Kevin Feige has been in charge of Marvel since the beginning. Jon Favreau was with them, helping them put everything together until, like, the middle. And same with, like, Joss Whedon when he came in with Avengers. He helped them shepherd through the whole thing. Like, they've had a creative team on it from beginning to end that are very, like, there are rules and guidelines to making a Marvel film that you have to follow. That's one of the reasons that people like Edgar Wright dropped out of their films with Ant-Man, is because you have to follow this like code and setup and building all in the continuity of the Marvel Universe. That universe is like 27 films or some nonsense. It's a lot. And yet they struggled to get through 3 in a basic trilogy format. Something that has literally been around for 42 years in film. Like, and it was just really sad to see them not have a plan. I think they should have had all 3 scripts roughly drafted and ready to go and then shot them. And it's crazy they didn't, because this is like one of the biggest IPs on the planet, and it was very silly.
No, yeah, and it's funny because it's Disney, so you're like, all right, we know you got the money to hire good people. We know you got the funds.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like, where was that? Where was that plan going forward? And it's funny too, because a lot of people. I think another big thing I hear a lot of people toss around with Star Wars, well, especially with this one, was that it didn't feel like Star Wars, and I'm like, that's the most bullshit. That's the most bullshit response you can give to any kind of media. I don't know. I've learned to not like that response so much now, because it's just like, what do you mean it doesn't? What are you talking about? It's what it is. What do you? That's like me. That's like me playing. That's like me playing Sonic Forces and being like, this isn't Sonic. Like, what? No.
I mean, like, in that case, no Battlefront game has ever felt like Star Wars, because I don't know about you, but I've never seen a Stormtrooper hit something, and I damn well kill people as Stormtroopers in those games.
Exactly. No, you're right. So, it's definitely funny, but I think...
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Star Wars will be fine. I know they'll probably... I want to see if they're going to do, like... I mean, we know we got another season of The Mandalorian confirmed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely... curious to see what they can spin off from here to kind of tide people over until they're ready to make another movie, especially with Disney Plus now.
I don't know when it's coming, but we're getting the Obi-Wan show, and what's really cool is the woman who's directing that and like the lead creator is the same woman that directed episodes 3 and 7 of The Mandalorian, which are undoubtedly the best ones in this season. Yeah, I know you haven't seen 7, but like 3, if you don't remember, is the shootout of the town.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
She's a damn good director, and I'm really excited to see what she does with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and it's still the same actor, right? Coming back as Obi-Wan.
Yeah, it's Ewan McGregor is confirmed to come back as him.
So that's
nice.
That's gonna be great.
I think a lot of people who are like really really big fans of Star Wars, their main issues were all of the plot holes and the retconning of things. Because like when I look online, and I was like doing like light research before all of this, like that's basically what people were talking about. Every single one that I clicked on, everybody had issues with that specifically, and that was like the most prevalent theme across all of their reviews and everything, were just like the retconning and the plot holes and everything.
Yeah, and like I think anybody who had seen The Last Jedi and saw the like that immediately Rian Johnson was out, that he like lost his Star Wars trilogy, like all this stuff, you knew that Disney was going to overcorrect when they brought back Abrams. So I went into the film understanding that was going to happen, but I did my best to stay neutral, and I enjoyed it. Like I said, I overall like this movie. And ultimately, this whole trilogy is nowhere near as bad as the prequels. If you don't believe me, go watch the Mr. Plinkett reviews. Or better yet, just go watch the prequels and don't fall asleep.
Go watch the prequels and don't fall asleep.
Especially episode 1.
Look, you can watch them. You'll probably fall asleep halfway through, but like you'll wake up at the end.
Yeah, me and my best friend have been friends since we were in first grade. That is 21 years we've been friends. We have loved Star Wars the entirety of the time we've known each other. We grew up watching the prequels, playing Jedi power battles, and like just flipping out over this stuff. And 2 years ago, before The Last Jedi came out, me and him sat down and tried to rewatch all the films together. And we did them in release order. So we did 4, 5, 6. We had so much fun. We were like, this is great. We love these. We put on episode 1, and by 45 minutes in, each of us had gotten like our laptops and were playing Knights of the Old Republic and not paying attention to the movie.
It's a snort. Episode 1, I think, is the hardest to sit through. 2 and 3 are not as bad because you know when those because everyone knows when those pick up, and you're like, okay, this is But I think 1 is definitely the worst offender. Like, it's so bad. Like, can we just skip to the part where we get to Darth Maul? Can we skip to the fight? Like, yes. And maybe...
Wait, isn't there a Darth Maul TV show coming out as well?
No. Darth Maul's character arc is concluded. You can go watch Rebels if you want to see that. Yes. Sorry, guys.
Because I was reading like something online, or maybe it was just like a rumor or something like that, where like they were planning on doing it or something like that.
They could, because they have established like in like the Solo era and in like Clone Wars and stuff. There is a point in time where he controls like a lot of the the crime syndicates. They could probably do something cool in that. But I believe the only official Star Wars things currently announced are Clone Wars is getting a new season. Yep. They are doing Obi-Wan, and they're doing Season 2 of Mandalorian. And I'm pretty sure the earliest out of all 3 of those projects is Season 2 of Mandalorian, which is in the fall. So it's gonna be a minute. We're gonna have a good like year without any Star Wars. It's gonna be weird.
Yeah, I mean, which honestly is fine because like I think I feel like as Star Wars fans, we understand and we know we know that like we wait for things. It's kind of like Pokemon. It's like okay, yeah, we know another game's coming. We know we have to wait for it. So you know what I mean? Because it's segmented off like that. It's the way the structure is. It's just there's always time in between movies. So I think
Yeah, they're just gonna release a bunch of Battlefront 2 DLC. It'll be fine.
Which, you know what? For as much as I despise EA, I will say I like Battlefront 2 right now.
Yeah,
they got rid of they got rid of most of the monetization. They made all the DLC stuff is free. They've added everything from like the Clone Wars through the First Order stuff, and they changed the leveling system. It's still the cards, but they unlock just by playing the character and leveling up, the same way that it would in like Battlefield, which is a very traditional, old school, like character progression system, and it's so much more fun. Even when I get murdered by a like fully geared out Anakin Skywalker, I still feel awesome because I just run around with my tiny PV blaster and I'm like, I am an officer for the Republic. It's great.
I gotta download it again. I deleted it a while back because I just can't play it anymore, man. I wasn't really having fun with it, but I'm definitely gonna re-download it now.
I played it for the first week it was out, and I hated the microtransactions and the leveling system so much. I quit. I was like, this is atrocious and mean. I was getting, like, day one, I was getting killed by people with fully geared out characters, and every one of their characters, and it's probably just because they had bought the, like, most expensive edition and got all these card packs right away, so they got some good stuff, where they got the, like, Yoda with the fully stacked power-ups from the start. I was like, that's not fair.
No, that's not fair at all. No, it's not. It's not fair at all.
Oh, man.
But I think all in all, I don't think it's funny because everyone's like, it's weird. Everyone's like, okay, this ruined, like, the sequel trilogy ruined my childhood. I'm like, dude, if your childhood is done, you can't taint what has already been passed. So I'm like, I think it's fine. I think the last movie was great. I think if you see it more than once, it gets better. I don't know. That's kind of how I felt about it. Like, I watched it. Like, the first time I liked it. The second time I was like, okay. Because the first time I was like, that breakneck speed, I was sitting there quiet like... like, I was... Like, 'cause so many things are happening. But I think the second time where I really had more time to sit and kind of digest it a little bit more, I enjoyed it a lot more. So I definitely think on subsequent viewings, you might pick up on more things and it may not be as jarring as the first time. Because I walked out of it the first time and I was like, wait, hold on. And I think and I think it's cool that they changed up the pacing, like, on purpose because they know how the pacing was in, like, the past movies. So I thought that was really cool as, like, just from a storytelling standpoint. So I think
this whole film runs on 11 when the dial was set at 10.
Pretty much. Oh, and you know what? One last thing I want to bring up because I know a lot of people had issues with this in The Last Jedi because, Rian Johnson, but the Kylo Ren smashing and rebuilding of his Sith helmet, because I know a lot of people, there's great significance behind the Sith helmet and they're not supposed to be easily destroyed. And that's like one of the first corrections J.J. Abrams does. They fix the helmet. So
I do love that he fixes the helmet and then within the same, like, the next 20 minutes he takes it off because Adam Driver's a really great actor and it's harder to act with a helmet on. It worked for Darth Vader because Darth Vader is and that's all you need and everybody's scared. Yeah. But for where they were trying to go with the character, he needed to have the helmet off more often, as much as I love that goddamn helmet. So it was just really funny, because that was 100% their analogy for, guys, we're trying to fix it.
That was how I felt. It's funny, because I like kind of the remade helmet more than I even like the original helmet. I don't know why. It looks
the crazy
cool
glowing red lines through it.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because when I watched it, I was like, "Oh, it's just hot. It'll cool down." It was just like that the
Oh yeah,
entire
same,
movie,
same.
and I was like, "Wait, hold on, it's still glowing."
Oh my god.
So, and from an aesthetic standpoint, I love it now. Like, I'm like, cracked helmet's the way to go. But yeah, I understand that.
Crack helmets 2020.
Yeah, can we have more Sith characters with cracked helmets? But I think that really sums it up. I think we all pretty much I think we all enjoyed the movie. I think the
Yeah,
biggest
no,
thing about it is
like
just
I said,
kind of yeah.
my bad. No, like I said, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the movie. Again, like I said, a lot of stuff that people were mad about went over my head. One thing that didn't go over my head though, which was early in the movie when the with like the stormtroopers were flying or something like that, and they were like, "Oh, they fly now," and I was like, "Wait, didn't they been fly?
Action
Weren't
figures.
they been able to fly?"
We need to sell more action figures. Give them jetpacks.
Yeah, that's what that
I was
was.
I was like, "Wait, they been had that ability," and I was like, "Am I missing something?"
I think it's just because it's the first time you saw the First Order with jump packs.
Yeah.
Like, specifically the First Order with a jump pack. So,
Let's go.
And also action figures.
Yeah. Yeah, just action figures in general. I know I'm definitely gonna go and buy as much Finn like merchandise as I possibly can because he's definitely my favorite. John Boyega is awesome. You know, it's funny. There's such a lot of good actors. There's a lot of good actors in this sequel trilogy. Like you said, Adam Driver. Yeah. Adam Driver is amazing. He has a TED talk how he went from being a Marine to an actor. It's totally awesome. It's worth a watch or a listen if you're like into TED Talks. Daisy Ridley, my God, yeah, her accent. I have a thing with girls with British accents or just English accents in general. So I'm gonna just leave it at that.
I think everybody low-key does. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody low-key has.
As Scott nods. You know, so I mean, kudos to the whole team. They did a great job. They did the best with what they could. Abrams did the best with what he could. You know, go see the movie with an open mind. It's funny because when I when I watch movies, I definitely get like the Dragon Ball. I call it the Dragon Ball effect, where I'm like, I'm gonna turn my brain off and just enjoy I'm just gonna turn my brain off and enjoy what's happening. Because the moment you put Dragon Ball under a microscope, you're like, huh? You know what I mean? But like, Dragon Ball's not meant for that. Like, it's meant to be like, we're big dudes that punch each other. And you know,
yeah, because you think everything is solved by Dragon Balls.
Exactly. And like this movie, it was just like everything is gonna pretty much be solved with a lightsaber and the Force. And I'm like, all right, cool. I can get behind
space wizards doing stuff in space. That's it. Have fun, kids.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. But yeah.
Question for you too though. Speaking of John Boyega, I watched his Hot Ones video, and the dude can handle some heat. The dude can handle some heat. Nigerian, he can handle some heat. But he mentioned that he had like a Twitter exchange with some fans or whatever. And he was saying that he believes Anakin Skywalker is stronger than Rey. How do you all feel about that?
110%. Anakin would have bodied everybody.
Oh yeah, Anakin would have. Yeah,
Anakin would have bodied like Ren and Kylo together. No troubles. The thing with him, because I believe it's stated somewhere in the still canon novelizations and stuff. The only reason that Obi-Wan beats him is because Obi-Wan trained him. It's one of those things where like, even if the little brother gets stronger, they for some reason always like lose when they wrestle and play against the older one. Like my best example is in Call of Duty. My little brother is one of the best Call of Duty players I've ever seen. I can always kill him even though I'm one of the worst I've ever seen. And it's just because I taught him and I know how he plays.
Yeah. So
yeah.
No, and I was gonna and just to piggyback off of what Scott said, didn't mean to cut you off, but if you rewatch, and it's funny because I really watch the choreography of the fights now, especially episode 3. as soon as that fight kicks off, Obi-Wan is on the defensive in almost the entire fight. Like he's not trying. Like you don't really ever see Obi-Wan outwardly really attack Anakin. He's just like nope.
And there are two moments that I really go to for like putting Darth Vader specifically into like power levels of like the modern Star Wars, because the biggest thing with the old ones, the reason the fights were so tame is because every lightsaber fight was handmade because of the technology was brand new and they didn't have what we have now. But there are two that are really good. One I can't say because it'll be spoilers for you guys for some things that are out. But the other one is in Rebels. This isn't even just like a fight or anything in Rebels, but as soon as Darth Vader is in like the vicinity, Kanan and Ezra both look at each other and go, I feel cold. And they are visibly shaken and afraid, and you've seen them fight multiple Siths and like Inquisitors and do some crazy shit at this point. And suddenly, like, both of them are shut down in fear and don't know what to do. And Vader's just on the planet.
He's like,
dude's not in the room.
I sense his energy.
Like, yeah, it's that moment where, like, Frieza is coming to Earth and everybody notices it, and Goku's not around. They're like, oh shit. That's Darth Vader's power level, and you just don't get to see it in the original trilogy because the tech wasn't there.
Yeah. That reminds me of like Bleach when like you're around like a powerful enemy or whatever, and like people can't even stand.
Yes.
They do like the really fast lines, and you're like, oh.
Ichigo and Kanzaki, the super strong eye patch captain.
Yeah, Kenpachi.
Their first fight, where he literally just stands at the end of the street and Ichigo can't move.
He's like, what is that? Kenpachi's here.
And that's the thing. That's the actual power gap, and it's weird and hard to tell because 40 years of technological developments and like bigger budgets and like all kinds of different stuff has happened, so they can do the stuff where Rey deflects a blaster bolt with her saber and then force throws it into somebody else. That's an actual moment that happens in Episode 9. Like, cool shit like that happens constantly, and I would love to see what that would have looked like in the OG trilogy, because that would be just really cool. But anyway.
Yeah, I guess we kind of all said our pieces. So I guess let's do one thing. So let's all do one thing that we would love to see from Star Wars next. I'm gonna say an Ahsoka Tano series because I love Ahsoka Tano, and I would love to see more of her. So I would love to see a series with Ahsoka. So that's my one wish.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants this, but
oh boy.
I mean, I really enjoyed them as a kid. I really wanted a Force Unleashed 3.
Oh, okay.
Like video game series. I really wanted that.
So now I know that this series is that a Old Republic series is in the works. But I would love to see something like just shy of a Game of Thrones set in the Mandalorian Wars in the Old Republic.
Ooh.
If anybody doesn't know, I don't think it's not technically canon anymore. But in the Old Republic, the Mandalorians, for the first time ever in their history, their whole planet was united, and they had no one else to fight. And it was before they joined the Republic, so they geared up and just fought the Republic to see who was stronger. So it's this one planet versus an entire coalition, and they were winning until the Jedi stepped in. And the Jedi didn't... Only it was like a rebel sect of the Jedi that went against the Council's orders and did it. And that's all about Darth Revan and Darth Malak and how they become there. I would love to see, like, just following a band of, like, ragtag Jedis and new, like, rebellion officers attempting to reunite the shattered force of the Republic and battle these Mandalorians who literally drop from space into battle riding like their own Unimech.
That would be cool. That would be cool. And I think that's such a cool thing about Star Wars is because you can really pick any point in time and tell a story. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that's the coolest thing. And so, like, when it goes to Star Wars going forward, they have enough to work. I mean, now that they're moving forward, they still have a lot of things that they can do. It's just really just picking and choosing what they want to do and for and why. But
Yeah.
I think that's about it. Keon, ring us out of here.
Yeah.
My feet are falling asleep.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you have it. Our discussion on Star Wars Episode 9. Please let us know what you all think in the comments, or your opinions on the movie, on the Star Wars franchise as a whole. Yeah, let us know down in the comments. Thank you so much again for joining us, Bear, and you as always, Sheriff. And we'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.
Later.
So long.